Hi, I'm Janet Glenn. Welcome to Close to Home Saturday Sampler for the Basic for July of 2021. This month I'd like to introduce to the Basic group the Dresden Plate. This Dresden Plate uses 3 blades to make a quarter of the Dresden. Since this angle here is at 90 degrees, these Dresdens are all 30 degrees. So what we're going to use this month is called the, It is called the Starburst 30 degree ruler. And this wedge here is a 30 degree. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut our shapes using this ruler, and we're going to make 4 of each color. So let's get cutting. I did not put cutting instructions on the board because they're pretty simple, fairly simple. So I've already starched my fabrics. In the kit you're going to get the 3 colors for the blades. You're also going to get the small center. Don't cut this. I'll show you what to do with it. And you're going to get a large piece for the background. And again, don't cut this. We'll get there. Okay. So the first thing we want to do is cut this into a 4.5 inch strip. So I'm going to put them all on top of each other and cut them all at once. Remember, when we're cutting, we always want to start with a nice straight edge. Doesn't matter which side. I'm going to turn that around, and remember I said 4.5 inches. So here's my half. So that'd be 1.5, 2.5, 3.5, 4.5. So I'm just going to place the 4.5 inch line right on my nice cut edge and create a nice strip set. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is take our 30 degree starburst. We're going to be placing the 1 inch mark, the tapered end, the narrow end, the 1 inch mark along, I guess, the top of my strip or the bottom of my strip, it doesn't really matter. And then we're going to place the 5.5 mark. If this is my 5, this little white line right here is my half, 5.5, and then back to the 6. So this white line is going to be at the top, and the 1's going to be at the bottom. That's my 4.5. This is the angle that we want. It's a 30 degree angle, and that's the size. The closer we get to the tip of this ruler, the smaller the hole in the center of my Dresden is going to be. The farther up I get, the larger the hole it's going to be inside the Dresden for the circle. So we're going to do the 1 and the 5.5. So we're going to cut 4 of these. So taking care not to cut my or use any of my selvage, so that goes away. So here's 1 of each color. I'll just rotate the Starburst 30, place it back on the same cut line that I just did with the bottom on the 1, just like I did, and 5.5, and cut my second one. Rotate it. The 1 is back up at the top, 5.5 line on that edge. All right. And here we are again, the 1 and the 5.5, and cut your last blade. So what we're going to do with these blades is we're going to sew them up at the top, up at the widest. I'd say this is the base of my wedge, and this would be the top. So we're going to sew this one, the widest one, we're going to fold it in half, all of them. We're going to give that a little finger press, and we're going to sew this at 1/4 inch. So each of these is going to get done the same way, and I'm going to use my nifty little Gypsy Gripper to separate them. So I have my 1/4 inch foot on. I like to start from the cut side and sew toward the fold. Sorry, thread in here. All right, let me get some thread. Hopefully. Okay, hold on a second. There we are. Let's do that one again. Sew it a quarter. Take the next one. Fold it right sides together. Just keep feeding them through. So if I have 3 blades in all 4 corners, that's a total of 12 blades altogether. I'm going to show you a couple other degrees of blades. And when I say blades, I mean these angles, these petals. Okay, I'll do 2 more. And again, right sides together, slide in the folded, and last one. All right, so you're going to do all 12. I just did 6, but you're going to do all 12. And we're just going to keep chain piecing these together. I have this new cutting gizmo. It's called the Gypsy Gripper. It's for chain piecing your threads, and either side just simply cuts your pieces for you. All right, it's kind of a cool tool. Got a bunch of them in stock. All right, next thing we want to do is trim off. So this was my raw edge that I matched, and this would be the folded side. So we're going to trim away a little of the bulk on this one. So it's going to be maybe 1/8 of an inch, 1/16 of an inch away, and we're just going to kind of swoop it upwards. So let me show you. Just like that. All right, so each of these gets a little trim on the fold. And then we're going to pop them right side out. All right, so each of these gets trimmed. And then what we're going to do is we're going to remember how we press this with our finger all the way down. We're going to turn this inside out. We're going to use what I call this little purple thing. This is great for making our circle in a minute, and also poking out the points of our Dresden. So nice and gentle. You want to get a nice point in your Dresden plate. And then we're going to press these. It doesn't matter which way the seam goes, but we're going to follow the seam with where we pinched the center, so that it's not off to either side. We're going to have it right down the center. So I've already finger pressed, so I know where that is, and I just want to give it a little bit of heat. Let's flip this one over, give it a little bit of a poke, not too hard. I've also used a little bit shorter stitch so that it won't come out at the end, so it won't open up. So nice short stitch, maybe about a 2 or a 1.8. Okay, and a 1/4 inch seam. So line this up with that place where I finger pressed, which is, here's my finger press. Right here is my line, and I'm just matching up that seam. And this is going to help when you join all your pieces together. All right, so how do we join our pieces together? We're going to take the blades and we're going to put them all the same. And it doesn't matter if you go blue multi-red like I did in my directions, or you do, multi-blue red. They're all going to connect. Just keep them all the same. All right. So the first one we want to do, we're going to put the multi on top of the blue, right sides together. And they should be the same size. They were cut from the same ruler, pressed from the same lines. Sorry. So we're going to start sewing this seam, not up here at the top, but right here where the two fabrics meet up. And I'm going to start sewing in reverse. And what happens is I'm able to bury the threads, and this seam that gets a lot, this little area here that gets a lot of pulling, and when I'm pressing my Dresden in a circle, it won't split open. Okay, and I don't have all these threads hanging out from the beginning. So we're going to start here, we're going to back stitch about 3 or 4 stitches, and then we're going to come forward all the way down the side of the Dresden blade. So let's do that. I line up my 1/4 inch. I'm going to put my foot in here and see where that area just meets right there. I'm going to hold my threads out of the way, put my thumb on the reverse, and take a couple stitches back. I'm going to stop when it goes off. My last stitch, my needle is off the Dresden, and now I'm going to come forward. And what happens is now when we cut these threads, you're not going to see them all hanging out between each of the valleys. So in between each one, we have to pick up our needle, and we have to move our Dresden out of the way because it's not chain piecing. They're not right on top of each other. They're actually, each one is individual. So you just pull out your thread and keep on going. So here we are. I'm going to open this one and do the same thing. See, notice that this is a really good connection right here, nice and tight. There's no threads that are pulling open, and I got that thread down here. So I'm going to trim that, and you're never going to see it. All right, so put the next plate on, and we're going to be making 4 sets of these 3. So again, start sewing backwards. Okay. Put it in reverse and take a couple stitches until my needle falls off, and then forward. So kind of get to know your machine a little bit, that it's how many, does it take an extra step in reverse? Does it take 2 steps in reverse when you release it? Knowing your machine, where it's going to lie, and needle down, needle up, etc. All right. So once we get the 4 sets done, we're going to put them in together. These 3 get sewn to these 3, and we have half and 2 halves. Our halves get sewn together, and it creates an entire Dresden. So when you get all 12 blades sewn together, you're going to very gently press them in one direction. Okay, so in this case, I gently put my iron here on one and just kind of held it a little bit with my hand, just kind of open it up. I gave it a little bit of a turn and just kept going. Okay, all in one direction. So our Dresden is put together. We have to create our center circle. So what we're going to do is cut a 4-inch square. This is called Tearaway Stabilizer. You're going to need some of this. You're going to need 1/3 yard. And this is going to go behind our background, the white piece of backing for our applique to hold our stitches better. The little 4-inch piece you're going to take on your directions. You're going to be given a circle. So you're going to mark your circle on your tearaway. This is not a fusible. It's just a plain old piece of Tearaway Stabilizer. Give yourself a circle. Okay, just like that. Take your green piece of fabric. This is our centerpiece, and you're going to lay the Tearaway Stabilizer right on the right side of the fabric, just like that, right in the center of it. And we're going to stitch on the line. All right, so come on over. And every few stitches, what we're going to do is turn, lift up our foot, needle down, instead of just trying to drive it in a circle. So when you start, you want to take a couple steps forward and take a couple steps backwards to lock your seam, lock your thread. All right, so here we go. Take a couple stitches. When it seems like it's kind of hard, you don't want to, turn it too much, you can lift it up and just keep going. Okay. And nice, the smoother your circle here, the smoother your inner circle will be when you go to stitch it onto your Dresden center. Okay. A couple more. Coming around, coming to the end. And guess what? We're going to reverse right where we started. All right, so now we're going to trim this very close to the where I just stitched the orange line, about 1/8 of an inch all the way around. You could use pinking shears. Don't get too close to your stitch line, but you can see maybe 1/8 of a way, 1/4 of an inch, somewhere in that neighborhood. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. Okay. Once we have this, we're going to cut or rip a little, maybe an X, and we're going to flip this right side out. All right. So we're going to take one end and we're going to pop that right inside out. And what's happening is I'm taking the raw edge and I'm actually turning it to the underside. So when we applique it on, it's a nice curve edge that we have. So here I'm just using my finger, but I'll probably use my purple thing. It works really, really well. It has a little curve on the end. All right, and we're going to take this over to the iron once we have it all poked out. Okay, nice circle. All right, now let's go press this. And I made one there too. They're everywhere. Okay, so now we have our center, we have our Dresden. It's time to prepare the background. So here I have the background piece. And some of the backgrounds have the selvage on them, so you don't want to include that. These pieces are about 14 inches, give or take. So what I've done, well, hold on, I've already 505 this. So what I did with this is I pressed it, always best press, and I'm going to put, I'm going to find the center. I give it a little pressing there and here, and a little bit of heat so I know where my markings are. All right. Find the right side of the fabric. Sometimes that's okay. It's the right side. It's hard to tell. I'm going to take my stabilizer. Remember the rest of my Tearaway Stabilizer. Give it a little bit of 505. This is just a temporary adhesive. I'm going to lay my background right in the center of that, smooth it out, take my Dresden, and remember I did blue multi-red, so between the blue and the red where it ended, that goes on one of my creases. Between the blue and the red goes on another, right there, just keep pushing it around until all these are centered. Okay, once you have that in place, what you're going to do is give it a little pin just to hold your Dresden in place, and we're going to do a quick applique stitch. Your block is not finished unless you've appliqued it. So make sure that you go around it with the applique stitch. So what I like to do is change the color of my thread and also change my foot to an open toe foot, which is going to help me see and go around the edge of this. Don't forget the green one, and you can just kind of center that on top of your Dresden and pin that one in place as well. Don't forget to go around the Dresden with your applique stitch. All right, Heidi, if we can go over to the sewing machine, we're going to switch it over for applique. So this machine I'm using, you can use a satin stitch, which is just a very close together zigzag. You can also use a blanket stitch. You can use a blind hem stitch. You can use a straight stitch. You could use a decorative stitch. Anything to hold your applique shape, which is your Dresden, onto the background. So on this, I'm going to use the blanket stitch. Okay, one more time. There we go. So I'm changing my color to white, but you can certainly use green, you could use red, you could use blue, you could use any color you'd like. And I'm also going to change my foot to, where am I? Oh, way over here, thank you. Found it. Okay, to an open toe. So you see on this foot, there's nothing between the needle and where I'm putting my fabric. So it's easy to see where I'm going. Okay. So I like to start in a little bit of a non-conspicuous place. Actually, I'll start on the red so you can see, because I'm not going to do a whole lot. On this particular Bernina 475, I'm going to go into the quilt stitching, and I'm going to go into stitch 1309. So you can see how the stitch has a straight line down the right and all the little fingers going off to the left, and that's exactly what we want. The straight line of stitching is going to fall on the background, and the fingers of the stitch are going to fall on the applique. So we're going to put our knot on, or fix our stitch. So it's going to take a couple knotting stitches, and see how it came over to the left. So it's going to go forward, left, right, forward, left, right, forward, left, right. And you see how that needle is just skimming the edge of my applique. All the stitching you want to see is going right on to the petal. So as you approach the top, so I'm going to take a couple more stitches. As you approach the top, you want to needle down, forward, left, right. I know the next one's forward, so I might want to jump the corner, go left, right, stop, pivot, forward, left, right, forward, left, right, and continue down this side. It's the same thing when you get to the valley. You want to make sure you're stopping where you want to stop. Forward, left, right, forward, left, right, forward, left, right, forward. Okay, well, I don't want to go that way. I'm in the valley, so I actually want to go left, right. This one's forward, left, right. So you just kind of turn, practice a little bit with them. Don't forget to do the green center, and when you are completely done, you're going to give it a nice pressing and tear away the stabilizer, final pressing, and cut it down to 12.5. So to cut it to 12.5, what you want to do is use your 12.5-inch ruler. And these white lines, it's hard to see, but these white lines that go through the center of the ruler has like a little bullet hole on the Creative Grid rulers. That's my center. So I'm actually looking at the white lines of my 12.5-inch square. Those lines are going right where my creases were, or in between the two blades. So as you can see, this line is going between the red and the blue. This one not so much. Hold on. This one between the red and the blue. See the white line right here? Okay, so I'm not all that straight. There you go. That's about as close as it's gonna get. Of course, I have pins under it too. So then you're just going to take it. Once you get it centered, you're going to trim it to 12.5. Let me show you real quick the other wedges so you're not getting the wrong ruler. This one again is 30 degrees. You need 3 of these to make up a quarter. So that's 90. 3 times 30 is 90. This one is 22.5. This you need 4 to make up a quarter. 4 times 22.5 is 90. This one is 18. The wedge on this is 18 degrees. You will need to cut 5 of these if you wanted your Dresden to fill your corner. 5 times 18 is 90. And of course we have this one, which is 10 degrees. Obviously you need 9 of these. That's a whole lot of petals to do. 36 if you want to do a complete Dresden. That's a lot. So we're using the 30 degree, just 3 petals per corner, okay? So just to recap, you need to have your block appliqued and squared down to 12.5. So July kits will be available beginning Saturday, July 17th at 10 o'clock. Bring your completed June block by August 20th to receive your July's kit free. In-store, in-person classes have begun here at Close to Home. Come in, check out our website, or check out our free app for upcoming classes, specials, and events. And as always, thank you for shopping at Close to Home. Bye.